That's terrible.
That actually sounds like the worst thing ever. Okay, the recording should be going now, so we should be all set. Um, and good to go. I don't know why in my brain I'm like, we should start with a prayer, but I'm like, that's not how these work.
Okay, so-
Okay, perfect. So
sorry. Does somebody want to take notes as well?
yes, I can take
I
notes.
don't know if I have a pen on me. Okay.
No worries. I can take notes. I'm not able, for some reason, I'm not able to pull up the thingy again, like I have been able to pull up before.
Oh, like
Yeah.
the to do? I can do that.
Do you want to do
I
that,
can,
Savannah? That'd be great.
yeah, I can totally do that.
Because I'm like, at this point, I feel like I know what the flow is, but just to make sure I know what the flow is. Um,
Honestly.
okay, perfect. Well, let's get started. Um, do we want to start with the readings?
Sounds good.
Okay. I'm trying to think what the readings were. I read them the beginning of this week and then I forgot about
Um,
them.
the first unit was like the sex and gender.
Right.
And so it was like it had like the bluey baby rays. And then it had that article by Brother Puccini, The
Mm-hmm.
Case for Heroic Masculinity, the one that he like wrote and published.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
that
so
one.
good.
That's where I feel like definitely most of my notes are from. Like, and when I got to the end and I saw it was by him, and I was like, oh, of course. I was like, this makes so much more sense.
Right? Like
But,
the entire time he's talking about it, he made a comment about a cinema therapy video, like a YouTube channel. I've watched that YouTube channel and that video so many times, and it's so good because like masculinity in and of itself, it's not a bad thing. It's just the world will continually think that that's what it is, and I'm like, it's not. Just the way that it's presented.
mm-hmm.
I don't know. Sorry,
No,
Savannah, I got really excited.
no,
So
I
you can
like
go ahead.
completely agree because it's like he like introduces it as like social stories. Like that's kind of like how our oh, I want to call it ecosystem society. That's
Yeah.
kind of like how our society like starts to run and operate. It's just like it's just small masses of people and how they act, and that there's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of us. But then, but then, like us as humans, we're mimickers. So we mimic what we learn, we mimic what we see, we mimic what we do. And so I love how it's like, you get into some of that like toxic masculinity, and he's like, masculinity's not the problem there. Like the problem is, and then he's like, masculinity is the solution. And
Mhm.
that like we've just and juvenility is the problem. Like we've just turned to a society that we like shun responsibility, and we like shun like efforts to do good. Like we just have made it so like good masculinity is not relevant.
Yeah, I'm making note of that.
I love how he also referenced like Disney movies as like all of his like sources.
Yes. It's so good. Because, like, think about Disney movies, they show masculinity in a way that we all love and
Mhm.
appreciate. But I also think there was this thought that I had that we've gone, and I think it's what was it? So in the Jigsaw, like two of the first reading, um, I watched a video and it's like the male inequality experience like explained by an expert, and it was talking about how we've in a way we've overcorrected so hard that that males are no longer and boys and men are no longer given the opportunity um and like are now at a default or like not able to do as much because we have overcorrected so harshly. And I like talked about it, it's like in the work field there was a lot more male teachers and now there's hardly any male teachers, and like in education, females we like naturally are already what's the word? We our brains develop faster. And so in the way that the school system is set up, we're the females are set up to succeed because we've already developed and we've developed faster. And then the men and the boys are just like, nah. Anyways, it was really interesting. I recommend watching that video because I might actually like rewatch it 5 times. But it was really interesting. It's like in a way, we've overcorrected from being feminist to not actually helping our men and the guys in our lives.
Yeah, I feel like it all just goes back to like who you were created to be. Like if we start talking like plan of salvation and premortal life, like we have like innate characteristics that make us who we are,
Mm-hmm.
and that like feed into like our purpose here in mortality and in eternity. And it's like when our opportunities to fulfill our true purpose and like become the person we need to become um, get limited or hindered in some way, I feel like you can really put a damper on like that person's like progression and identity throughout their
Yeah, it's like the divine potential.
life. Exactly.
That's cool. Eliza, what are your thoughts?
Sorry, I was feeding my cat. I kind of forgot that I have to do that. But I don't know. I really enjoyed the article just 'cause um like he brought up a lot of Disney, especially Lion King. I love that movie, so I was very much like, oh yes, I love the examples. Um I played a lot into like the Jigsaw from part two. I liked that I had to read at least.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so it was just very like nice because I love that he was like masculinity is the solution, and then it also takes courage to embrace the gender norms because I mean, like we said before, like there's so much um information out there that makes it a little bit more confusing to know like what's really like what we should be doing or what we should accept in society. And so it was just really like overall I liked his point of, oh, like this is our solution, this is what we should be doing. And that we just have that we just have to sorry, brain fart. We just have to like accept that responsibility and reject like the resentment that comes from it.
No, I kind of like that take, just like to the principle of like opposition in all things. Like there's gonna be resentment towards it,
Mm-hmm.
but I like how you said it, like mentioned like having courage in those moments of like resentment and acceptance.
Yeah, it's true. Because it really does. Like in the world that we're in right now, it's like support like the world we're in is in such so far extremes that if you support one thing, somebody's gonna be upset. Or if you support another and vice versa. But it's I like that a lot. You gotta have courage to be in a way traditional, be
Mhm.
the tradition. But yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else on the first reading that we want to discuss and go over?
I guess like my jigsaw.
Yeah.
I guess my second, because you guys will just talk about your second jigsaw.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
We
maybe
did. We
yours.
just kind of I didn't really go into like detail, but I referenced
Oh,
it.
okay. Well, I was like, I don't know. I was like, I should probably get like mine in there
Oh no,
then.
you're good. You're good.
No, you're good. But this one was cool because it's like I feel like it worked good with like Brother Pacini's like heroic masculinity because this one was like, what does it mean to be very feminine in America today?
Ooh.
And so it just kind of like talked about a study that they performed where they just had a bunch of like women take this survey and like a couple different surveys. And like one of the questions they'd ask is like, how feminine do you feel like you are? And it was like all questions on a scale of like 1 to 5. and then they'd kind of categorize them based off of that question and like how they'd answer all their others. It's like, how confident do you feel like you are? Like, how outgoing do you feel like you are? And then it's like, how stressful is your life? How happy is your life? Are you able to find joy and purpose in your life? And it kind of, they were like, they weren't expecting these findings, but they found that women who correlated more with being feminine, so not necessarily like a five every time, but like four and five, tended to all feel more confident and all have a more joyful life and, be able to find purpose in life. And they kind of correlated that with like their identity to be feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was good. Um, but then yeah, feel like, just being able to like identify and like fit yourself into like a role, and then it talks about like masculine or feminine, just can like increase that individual's like health and well-being and outlook and confidence and happiness in life like greatly. So
That's cool. I think like feminine has also, or yeah, feminine in a way has also become like a, it's weird to say, but a trigger word, like right next to masculinity. They can both be good or bad, good and bad at the same time. That's cool. I don't know. I think it's interesting. I really now want to read all of your guys' jigsaws because that's really interesting. Huh, that's cool. Oh my gosh, thanks, Savannah. Eliza, do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share before?
Very good. Um, no. Um, to kind of add on to what Savannah said in the first it's the second jigsaw from part one. I learned to learn about like the Disney princess culture and how it like is like it kind of is just they called it the cure to humanity because I mean you think about Disney princesses, they're about being strong, doing good. They add depth to like the characters, especially like they reference Moana a lot just because she had dreams and she fought through literal storms to complete her task. And they said that it kind of helps both genders out because the boys that see it, they said quote unquote tend to be like less toxic or like less of that like the toxic masculinity and they have more of like, oh, this is how you treat a lady because they see how the princes treat the princesses and they're like, oh, this is cool. But then you go into like the girls and they learn how to be like not necessarily like fully independent, but like these strong independent girls who kind of know how to work to get what they want or what they need at that time. And I found that that was like really interesting. And but yeah, it just says that yeah, it helps everyone to just kind of express their emotions a little bit better, which I found really interesting because I never thought about Disney princesses that way. So it was really entertaining.
Yeah, that's true. Disney princesses are quite fun and interesting. It's interesting the way that we've talked about Disney a lot, but like just in general, how Hollywood or just movies and um how they'll portray femininity or masculinity in a movie or in something like that. Nice. Cool. Any other thoughts on reading one? I just realized there was a Jigsaw one. We talked about Jigsaw two. Um, Jigsaw one, I don't know if you guys want to talk about it much. Um, I feel like this one was talking a lot more about the LGBT community, or at least my reading was. Um, and kind of in just a way of like, hey, we just need to make sure we're supportive. Um, it's interesting. My religion class this week was talking about this. And we talked about how we can be supportive, but at the same time, not support the action itself. But I don't know. It was really interesting. Do any of you have any thoughts about the Jigsaw one? of part one that you want to share?
Um, with my Jigsaw one, it talked a lot about like the LGBT plus community in the church and just how they navigate their belief system.
Hmm.
Caught right in the dark. Um, but it just kind of was like how they go all in on deciding to follow God and overcoming the challenges of like facing pushback from the community and who they consider to be their allies. And just like not like and then like or you know you have people who weaponize their beliefs and things like that. And it was really just a ton of like learning how to trust. This is
Hmm.
kind of the main like overall conclusion that the article came to. But it was just like you can trust the truth, and so that's how they go quote unquote all in when it determines like how they continue to stay like in the church or how they fight the negativity surrounding their culture. And I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, for sure. I think going off of that, I think we might have read the same one. I don't know. I read like this one that was also about them in the church, and it's really interesting them talking about and being like, there are people who will be allies, but in a way will villainize or like victimize a person because of their struggles and their heartaches, and it's like that's not okay. And that's what makes it hard for people is when we villainize or victimize someone because of XYZ in a situation. Yeah. Savannah, what about you? Do you have any thoughts about your Jigsaw one? I don't know which one you read.
Yeah, I think I had the one you guys did. It was called like sexuality and gender.
Oh, okay.
Um, and this one just kind of, it was kind of like, sorry, it was more talking about like, well, I don't know that word, innate differences, environmental differences, and psychological differences. And more like specifically transgender people. And then it kind of went into like the psychology of like how transgender people are affected in different ways and just like the mental stressors that they carry because it was like um if someone's like transgender people have a 41% suicide attempt rate, which I was like, oh, that is like actually crazy. And then they are 5 times as likely to have, oh wait, no, that's a different one. They are 2 to 3 times as likely to have been sexually abused as a child.
Dang.
And so I was like, oh, that's kind of like a scary statistic. And then it just kind of listed like a lot of stats and like kind of just trying to like put into perspective the way some of this was going on. And then um if a transgender person has had a reassignment surgery done, they're like 5 times as likely to commit suicide. And it's just talking about how um like all of this stuff is happening, but it was also like it was a really cool perspective because it wasn't like, oh, like these people are going through stuff. It was just talking about how it's like this is happening in society and this is why it's wrong. And so like that was kind of a cool take on it. And it was like no little boys have ever been born in little girls' bodies. And was just like saying like all of this stuff that's like not okay, like the fact that like there's child abuse going on and like suicide rates are increasing.
Hmm.
But just the fact that this can be because we're forcing ourselves to do something that's not natural for us. We're going against who we truly are and we're putting ourselves in positions where we can't find joy.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like bold and out of there for a minute, but it was good. It was good.
That's really cool. I like
So
the forcing where it's not natural for us to like be or like I don't know that aspect for some reason. I think that's really interesting because even if we take it out of the which is it's really sad and like there's so many hardships that these people and this group of people go through. Um that like I don't understand, but know that the Savior understands them and works with and has gone through that same pain and heartache. Um, but I think in some aspect as well, like we oftentimes do that to ourselves, where we force ourselves to be something that we're not, whether that be trying to fit in with the crowd or just whatever that sort of scenario is, or trying to be the person on Instagram or whatever. Um, that's so interesting. Thanks, Savannah. I like that. That's a lot.
Hey, it was my jigsaw.
Hold on. I'm trying to write that down, but I wrote it down wrong, so I have to write it down again. Hold on.
Oh,
You guys
no
can keep
worries.
talking though
No
if you have
worries.
thoughts. Okay.
Just a bunch of crazy statistics.
That's so sad.
Yeah. No, it kind of, yeah, it was sad. But I guess we can shift to like the two through 6.2 jigsaw.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on the 6.1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I feel like 6.2 is pretty much just like jigsaw and like the brain one.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like this jigsaw.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on your jigsaw? Which one were you?
I it's called It Takes Two.
Okay. Cool, cool.
I don't know. You guys probably I think you guys are doing the opposite ones with me.
Yeah, no, there's four different ones.
Oh, on this one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. What are
Um,
you want to share?
this one was just talking about how it's like the need for two parents and how crucial that is. Um, it kind of like it's hard, like it starts out, it's like two parents are needed to create a life, and therefore two are needed to nurture it. And it's just like, and then I kind of like talked about like the family proclamation to the world, and like it was kind of like a church one too. So that was kind of cool. And then I talked about a study they did where they were trying to support single dads better.
Mm-hmm.
They brought a bunch of these like single dads in and we're talking to them like, how do you feel about this? And just trying to like judge where they're at and like doing all this. And then it was like they like ask them, it's like, okay, like well, how like what needs to happen to like make single parenting as a dad easier or something? I forgot like the question, but it was like, what do single dads need most to like help raise their kids? And they were like expecting like groups like and they were expecting a lot of answers on a lot of different things and a lot of ways that society could step in and society could help. Society could sacrifice more on behalf of these single dads. Um, but then instead they were like the room just kind of like went silent. Um, and then they were like one dad just chirped up and said they need a mother. Like their kids just need a mother. And then just like they were like, oh, it goes to show that like back to like the title, like it takes two. And like back to kind of what we've been talking about, like this whole meeting is like the different roles and different identities. Like there's just things that like one can fulfill and things that another needs to fulfill. So um that was pretty cool. Um it was a sorry, I'm using this line. Oh, there was this really cool quote, and it was like eternity is composed of holy ordering of the complementary realities. That eternity is built upon complementing realities, and that in a holy order. And so I was just like, well, that's a really cool concept to kind of like roll over time. But yeah, that is just kind of what I talked about. So
I don't have room. Realities. That's a cool quote. I like that a lot because it kind of goes into what mine was talking about. I had to like remember, but mine was also so it talks about the Garden of Eden and the two trees is what it is. So it's talking about like the tree of life and the oh my gosh, the tree of good and evil, and how they're both there, and it relates it back to men and women and how we are complementary and that aspect, and we like in a way support one another. Um, but it's really interesting because again, this week for some reason my religion class lined up really well with our readings. It's hot, like thinking about like marriage and just raising kids and all of that. It just discussed how we both like support as men and women, we support one another so that when we have kids and when we have a family to raise, we're supporting each other in that aspect. And it related it back to garden to like the Garden of Eden and the two different trees. Of like first we need to know like the good and evil. We need to know that aspect of life, but also we need to have life and we need to move forward with that. And I don't know, it was really cool to just like think about that and that concept that so many times in our lives, and I love that quote that you said, Savannah, the eternity is built on complementary realities because there's so many different aspects of our life that is complementary in some way. You got like justice and mercy, you have night and day or what anything and everything. It's just like they're so complementary. And I think it in a way emphasizes um the relationship that we can have with our Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ, but also our Heavenly Mother and like that relationship that we can have. I don't know. I feel like childhood development is very family oriented, and the best way to do that is to have your family involved. And there's a higher chance of success. I don't know how you want to measure success, but when there's two parents. Yeah. Anyways, that was what mine was about. It was really interesting. Really random. But Eliza, what about yours for that jigsaw? Were you able to get to it?
I was. I'm like working. We're we're trying. We're working on something, but
Okay.
um, sorry. My jigsaw was on the most recent BYU Idaho devotional. I can't remember her name, but it was called "Designed for Love and Connection," and that one. And she focused. I want to say she works in like the child development department in the school, but she focused on how convenience can be a curse and heavily on the family proclamation and all of the like the different responsibilities that a mother and a father have in a family and how they are both equal and that in like they're different but their purpose is aligned to like help their children grow and learn. And so and so she talks heavily about divorce for a second because her husband parents were divorced and he had to go through the struggles. And she is an example of a kid who drew a photo of his family while they were going through the divorce and how he wondered if he was still loved. And so she said that instability equals confusion and that the children need that stability in a home. And she's like, obviously, not every family is going to be perfect. We have the broken families, but she's like, ultimately, even if you're divorced, you still need to create that nurture and that balance and focus what on filling your kids with that with a purpose of love and keeping that connection alive. She focused heavily on the plan of salvation and Christ and how through Christ he can heal us and make us one. And then at the end, she just says, turn to your patriarchal blessing because it can help be that guiding light to you. But I overall like really enjoyed her talk, mainly because I work full time, so I don't really get to listen to devotionals. So it was really nice to go back and re-listen to it, especially this one. But I love that her overall focus was the family and how it's like our fundamental unit of society.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. I also didn't get a chance to go to that devotional as well, but yeah, I like it a lot because it really does. I feel like one of the things this emphasizes is the importance of a family, um, and of a mom and a dad. in a way. But with that as well, what's the words I was thinking of? In a way it's like supportive and it's like acknowledging that even though there are homes that are may not look that like in that traditional steps, there's still ways that we can get that to be developed and best help one another. So, Eliza, are you wanting to say something?
Um, no, not really.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I was
Sorry, always
sorry.
we're we're having technical difficulties on my end, and we're like, what's going on?
Oh, gotcha. Okay, no worries. I just wasn't sure if you were like, I want to share a comment. Okay,
Oh, no,
cool.
you're good, you're good.
Anything else on the readings before we go on to the studies and the paper of the week?
I
Um,
just I used to say touch on that very last one, the anxious brain, and like tips to um like overcome anxiety.
yeah.
And I do that. I thought that was really cool. I really like this lady, the thing. And I'm pretty sure I'm like 90% sure she's LDS too.
Yes.
Like
This
I
is
remember I was like watching a video once and I'm like, oh, she's a member of the church.
yeah. I'm right there with you.
Um,
I literally was looking at her. I was like, looks like she's wearing garments. They were just really random and weird thought to have. Anyways, I'm with you, Savannah. I think she is a member.
almost, but there's this one video where it's just like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
But how she just talked about like courage, and I like how she talked about like the cure to anxiety is in a sense being anxious.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, oh, if you're like getting anxiety around dogs, it's like start small, start around a small dog, and then just kind of work at it, and then it's like, oh, eventually you get to the point where you go to like the dog park, and you're like, oh, I'm at the dog park for 3 minutes and start getting really anxious. It's like let yourself be anxious, recognize it, and then you can leave, and then just let it like build up and grow over time, because it's like when you get in an anxious situation, like that's your body's reacting and trying to figure something else out, and then you leave. You're in a sense teaching your body that it needs to be anxious at that
Mm-hmm.
time. So I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I would agree. It reminded me of my psychology class from last semester. He talked a lot about how um anything in a way it was like anything that you do can become a vice. So if you let your anxiety continue to rule over you or your stress to decide what you're okay with, then you're gonna be okay with the stress and the anxiety that you experience and you're choosing in a way to let that aspect be. But if you decide that, hey, this is a situation which I don't need to be this anxious, like anxiety is not a bad thing, stress is not a bad thing, but I don't need this level of stress or I don't need this level of anxiety. But yeah, it's really cool. Also the fact that our brains, I like knew that our brains can aren't like that sort of way where we can just mold them, but they're so weird and funky, and I don't think we'll ever figure out how they work in this lifetime, but it's fine.
This is true,
Yeah. Okay.
but that's okay.
But it's okay because we have the eternities.
Exactly. Like Imagine Dragon says, it's okay to not be okay.
Very true. And that's me on a daily basis.
I feel ya.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Okay. Perfect. Anything else? Any other thoughts? Any Thank you, Savannah, for pointing that out. I forgot about that portion of the reading.
Oh, also to add, I'm pretty sure in a past, for the lady talking about anxiety, I'm pretty sure in a couple weeks ago she did mention like she was a member subtly, but not like
Verbally.
she was like yeah, like not verbally. She just like subtly was like, yeah, like my husband served a mission, or like in my religion we believe this, and I was like, oh, she's 100% a member. Like
That. I think she mentioned a mission, and I was
She
like,
served. I'm pretty sure she served in Argentina.
yes!
mhm.
Oh my goodness. That's fantastic. I love that all of us were like, hmm.
Mhm.
I do that with everyone though. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Oh, I want to mention this because I think it's really cool and I forgot about it and I even boxed it on my notes before we move on. Sorry. Back to
Oh, you're good.
Jigsaw 2 and reading 1. My little thing, the portion, he mentioned that there's STEM jobs and that there's healing jobs, which I think is just really cool. So STEM, you've got like science, technology. Oh, I can't think of all of them. Engineering, math, and then healing jobs. Oh, I can't remember what they all were, but they're all like the medical, they're like, I don't know, like the therapy, learning, like all of that aspects of things. And I think it's really interesting. I don't know. That was just a really random thought. I was like, never thought of jobs as STEM or healing. And we need everyone, all of them. Anyways, those were my last thoughts. We can move on unless anyone else has anything else that they want to say.
I don't think
All
so.
good.
All good. Okay, perfect. So let's do the studies and the reading, the paper of the week. Paper of the week, I feel like very much so relates, well, was literally in the child development, but it was really interesting to like read that and have it discussed and be like, these are things that have helped children and what don't help children, like the way that we raise them or the way that we like the situations that we put children in to grow up in. I thought that was really interesting. I was looking at it though, and it didn't like seem to have a lot of support or like I don't know if that makes sense. Like evidence that's like hard evidence, but I love that she opened it up and was like, "Hey, I'm open for discussion on this whole thing." Anyways, those were my first thoughts about the reading.
Yeah, I feel like it was definitely just like a lot of more like superficial analysis and like a light meta analysis kind of thing going on. Of just like a lot different like articles and like stuff like she mentioned and stuff like that. But I I agree with you on like it was kind of eye opening to see like the situations that we put kids through, like in not big situations like home or daycare or home or preschool. Like those are the situations you're talking about. And just like I don't know, it reminded me something that was mentioned in my like class, but I'm gonna get to that. But like and just how it's like it like really does not positively affect any child between like 0 and 3 to be in daycare, like at all. Like it's just like so hard. And like they're like definitely like some situations that is the best choice for that child. And that is like gonna help that kid have like the best outcome in life and just the best experiences at that time. But that it's just like it's good for the kid to be at home too. And that was something like Professor Piccini mentioned in my instructional methods class this last week. He mentioned that kids who went to preschool, and I mean, like, I kind of went to preschool, I think. I'm like, I can't really remember much back then. But he's like, perform at lower levels consistently until like 8th grade. And it's just kind of hard for him to come up. And he's like, and the studies like show this very accurately. And he's like really passionate about it. But he's like, it just shows that 4-year-olds are just supposed to be at home with mom. Because he's like, 4-year-olds, like that age difference, like they're just getting pushed to learn their letters, pushed to learn their numbers, pushed to spell their name. And it's just so hard at that age where it just makes learning like difficult and push back, and their brain's just not quite there. But I don't know. I was kind of like, it just reminded me of that comment that was made in my other class. And I was just kind of like, wow, kind of crazy.
Yeah. It's kind of like we need to let kids learn at their own pace, um, instead of trying to make them fit this perfect scenario. And it makes me think of the Bluey episode of we don't want to push them to just do something and then yeah, I don't know. That's really cool. Eliza, you have a thought?
Yes. So you were mentioning the Bluey episode and not pushing them reminded me because I work with the kid. I think I mentioned this multiple times, but my kid that is special needs. is very like you can tell just in general, like in this middle school, a lot of the kids that we work with, you can tell grow up in the environment where they're not really told like no or push super hard because the parents don't know a lot about like autism or my kid's nonverbal, so it's like a lot harder for like their parents, for his parents to be like to know what he always wants, and so it's hard for them to push him. So when he comes to school, it's kind of like, oh, I want to push you because I know you can do it. I know you're super smart. And that's the case I feel like with a lot of kids, especially like really, really young kids, like in
Mhm.
Bluey. Like they're all really, really smart. Even on this episode, they were all babies. But the
Right.
kids are
They were
they're
geniuses.
the geniuses, literally. Like, and I love that she in the Bluey episode specifically, she's like, we create our own races. Like we're not like always like we don't always have to compete with other people. That we can make like we can essentially like run our own life. And I feel like that's a lot how the article is like worded a lot too is like yes we push our kids but we don't need to like push them too hard because obviously like the more you work with a kid or the more you work with like your own whether it's your own kid or a kid like in like a teaching field you're gonna know where they're at
Mhm.
like academically or mentally to know how to you can best help them and I found that that was really really interesting and really fun.
Yeah. You got to know where they're headed to be able to best get them on the path that's going to best support them.
Yeah.
And preschool might not be the path to take them.
And I think I went to a preschool too. I just don't remember. My sister and I were discussing that. Like, did we go to one? I don't know. We know our mom worked in a daycare.
That's valid. I also am like, I think I went to a preschool, but I feel like it was like, I went and it was a play date. I don't actually know.
Mhm.
I
I feel
mean,
like I went to the one that they did at like BYU Live like years ago. Like when
yes, they
I was
had
like,
one
oh
here.
yes. And I'm pretty sure like I remember going there.
Yeah.
But and this is another thing, like the professor said, he said like all every preschool claims to be like play based, but so many of them are more like educationally based. Because if they are more play based, then it's like at that point, um, it does become more what's the word I'm looking for? Like benefits the kids. Like kids just need to learn to play and be social and interact with each other.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so true. I forgot that there's the one here on campus. I think I also went to it maybe once. I don't remember.
Yeah.
That's so funny that
It's
we're
like
learning about this and they're like, here you go, daycare.
I did not go
yeah.
to that one. I feel left out.
Yeah. Well, and then I feel like there's a
Amanda.
difference between like daycare and preschool.
It's true.
Because I think the article talks about like, oh, like daycare, like when they're like 4, 5, 6, like that's a completely different effect. It has a completely different effect on kids compared to or like the older kids, like handle it completely different than like the little babies.
Yeah. Oh, it's so interesting. I don't
Mhm.
know. School is weird. And raising children is weird. Um, okay, should we move on to the 99 studies? Or anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah,
Like we can move on.
Perfect. I can start us off. I'm just gonna kind of go over the general ones that I did. So the one that I really need to take more advantage of is I did the phones and sleep study. And that one was just talking about how they studied people and when they use their phones at night. And I've heard about studies being done for this. And if I'm being honest, I've ignored them because my mom keeps pointing them out. Um, but it's pointed out multiple times that when you use your phone or electronic device at night, before you go to bed, you're stimulating the brain to stay awake, and because the brain's not realizing it's nighttime, because naturally what our brain will do when it gets dark, it starts sending melatonin for us to go to sleep. But with like phones and devices that we use at night, we're stimulating our brain, and so we don't get much sleep. And so, anyways, I thought that was interesting a little bit, and I need to take more advantage of that one for sure. But that was a fun study to read and actually find instead of just hearing it from my mom. But anyone want to go next? That was only one of mine, but yeah.
Okay. Shall we?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Um, so one, so one of the ones that I did was like the one about asking why. Um, and it's just like it just kind of briefly talked about how it's like students are able to like retain what they learn more when like they ask why, and that can like greatly increase like their retention levels on that subject. Um, and then kind of talked about like, when we remember things that we think about a lot or that we were trying to understand. It's like, oh, I'm like thinking about this. Like those are something that you're gonna remember. Like if you're learning about something that you're like interested in or like curious about, that you're like able to like naturally retain that because even if you're not physically asking why, you're like mentally thinking like, huh, like I wonder why that is. Or what's going on there? And then like you remember those questions like more more than not.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought that was kind of a pretty cool one.
Savannah, you do a really good job at asking why.
Why? Like,
It's a
huh.
compliment, I promise.
Oh, thank you. It's because we had English together and I just didn't know what
With
I was
English
doing.
together, we were both so freaking confused. Eliza, if you ever need help with English, just let us know.
Sounds good. Oh, I mean, if
You
you guys are really good at writing and researching, then maybe I'll take you guys up on that offer.
are you in Ed Core 310 right now? Or the English? Okay, that's the one that we had together last semester.
Okay.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
interesting.
Just
Oh,
a quick question. How much longer do we have on the Zoom call?
Honestly, I've been following along. We've been on this for about 45 minutes. So if Eliza, if you just
Okay.
so we can just wrap up. Eliza, if you want to share it in your study, and then we can just end
mhm.
it, if
Yeah,
that works with you all. And then I can
that
send the
works.
video link.
Okay.
Sweet.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Eliza, what are your thoughts on your study that you did?
Alright, so I was gonna do the ones about phone and sleep, but I did two other ones, and I was like, girl, I feel you with the whole sleep thing. But I did the one about the IKEA effect. I forgot to bring my book with me, so I'm trying to remember what that one was about. But I think it was a lot about just. I've never been in an IKEA personally, but I've heard it's easy to get lost in there, and so it was kind of. I'm trying to use muscle memory here, but I'm pretty sure it's a lot about um the one thing I remember was it was talking about overcoming like biases, especially. Um, and I feel like I've learned a lot about biases the past couple of weeks, so I feel like I should be somewhat of an expert on how to freaking overcome them, but I'm not. But it's really interesting to see that like getting lost and confused in certain conversations and about certain topics can lead to that. Because I mean, you think about especially I feel like in college or high school, in general, like you're a little bit more developed mentally, and so you know a little bit more about the world than let's say like K through 8 or 9, depending on when your middle school ends or junior high years end. But it was just really interesting to see that like there's a lot of like miscommunication, which I mean, sometimes I look at politics today and I'm like, yep, I see what I'm learning at school now and I like it, but I also hate it. But it kind of just taught me to see like the value in the little things, to not just fixate on like obviously to focus on facts and to try to get rid of biases, but to focus on the little things in life that make it a little bit more special so I'm not just focused in the negative all the time. And to kind of like bring that into like the gospel is just kind of like God knows you and he's like he's made the gospel the way that it is to help us overcome as the prophet as Nelson had once said, just like overcome the world and find rest. And so I found that that was really interesting. Just to like correlate with because originally we were talking about IKEA and now I'm like, oh, I gotta overcome the world, woohoo!
Mhm.
And so I overall really liked that study in particular just because it really I don't know, it kind of tied over like what we learned the past couple weeks, especially just about like parenting and like sex and gender, just like overcoming like those like challenges and like learning how it works for you and not focusing on what the world thinks of it.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Cool, cool, cool. I like it. I think the IKEA effect is real. We get caught up in a lot of stuff. Okay, perfect. So we should be all set and good to go. I will go ahead and end this recording.
Mhm.